Hey everyone, National Master Steven Adams here, and today I want to talk with you about playing with an isolated queen's pawn. One common adage is to play the Isolani like a gambit. Now, IQP positions are interesting because usually the pawn will inevitably be captured at some point. One common trap that inexperienced players fall into is that they try to over-defend the IQP, and then when all of their pieces are distracted with this defensive task, their opponent can create a second weakness and apply the principle of two weaknesses to put them under a lot of pressure. Our mentality instead should be that this pawn is going to get captured at some point. Therefore, we should look for the most favorable moment to give it up. In exchange for this pawn, we are hoping that the active piece placement and IQP position will compensate once this position opens up by the pawn being sacrificed. Here we have a game between two very famous grandmasters, Ulf Andersson playing white and Anatoly Karpov playing black. I'll pause and give you a second to think about what Ulf Andersson played as white here and maybe what you would do. So if you want to pause here, you can, but I'll resume in 3, 2, 1. So Ulf Andersson played a great move here and played pawn to d5. And this is very interesting because this pawn can be captured 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways. And we basically know, okay, that square is way overprotected by black. The pawn is going to be captured. But what you're going to see is that this pressure down the D and E files against this vulnerable queen on D8 and this vulnerable bishop on E7 will be more than enough to compensate for this pawn. So Karpov here took on D5 with the knight. So knight f takes d5, but after knight takes d5, and bishop takes g5 is what Karpov played. But then after knight takes b4, what happens is that Ulf Andersson was simply up a piece. But there's nothing really else that black could do either. At the beginning, if they took on d5 with the pawn, the bishop on e7 would hang, so that doesn't really work. And if they play like knight b takes d5 as Karpov did, and after knight takes d5, if they try to recapture, let's say knight takes d5, well, here we can simply take on e7, and black has to recapture with the queen, and they recapture with the knight, of course, and that knight's pinned to the queen hangs on d8, and once after the queen takes e7, bishop takes d5, bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, taking advantage of this pin, and black can't recapture the rook because of the pin on the queen. So, really what we saw in this starting position is that this pawn's going to get captured eventually, but when we opened up the position at the right moment, we saw how powerful the white pieces suddenly became, and how they were perfectly positioned for when everything opened up. And that's really how you want to approach an IQP position. You want to say, okay, my pieces are going to be better placed, and when the position opens up, I'll be better prepared for it than black, who has less space and less squares to develop their pieces. And if it were black to play, they would want to, of course, blockade this d5 square. If it were black to play, they would be putting a knight on d5 and not allowing the position to open up. So if you're ever in an IQP position, always look for opportunities to advance your d-pawn. Don't get trapped in this over-defensive mindset, but every move you should be considering the consequences of advancing it and what happens if the position opens up. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.